It's 1962 and Lucky Luciano is dying, but it ain't his heart that's killing him. It's the weight of years spent building a criminal empire, a kingdom of blood and money that reaches far beyond the streets of New York. He's in exile now, living in Naples, his body weak, but his mind sharp as ever. You can't take down a man like that just because his heart's giving out. You can't forget the power he built with a quiet hand and 1,000 silent deals. He's sitting there in the dim light of his room, dictating his memoirs, speaking to a journalist about his past, but not just his past. No, he's talking about something bigger, something darker, something that'll turn the world upside down. And what he says about the Kennedys, that's when the game changes. Luciano's voice is calm, too calm. They think they can use us, he says, almost as if he's already looking past them. But you don't use people like us. You make deals with us, you honor them, or you pay the price. He laughs, the kind of laugh that doesn't make it to his eyes. It's a threat wrapped in a shrug. But here's the thing, he knows something's coming, something none of us want to hear. He's not just talking about power or business. He's talking about a death, a president's death. He's talking about Kennedy. A betrayal's been simmering, slow and steady. Joe Kennedy made deals with the mob to get his boy elected. He knew the rules, but Jack, he doesn't know, or maybe he just doesn't care. Jack don't get it, Luciano mutters. He don't know what his old man promised us, but we're not stupid. We don't forget. And there's gonna be hell to pay. He doesn't say it outright, but the message is clear. Kennedy's playing with fire and there's a price for betrayal. But here's the kicker, Luciano isn't even in the game anymore. He's out. Retired, you could say, but rumors, they travel, they slip through the cracks and Luciano's still hearing them. They're talking about Dallas, he says, the words rolling off his tongue like he's reciting an old street address. Dallas, maybe 1963. Oil men, business folks, and people like us, we're not happy with the way things are going. He leans forward, his breath shallow. When enough powerful people ain't happy, that man's days are numbered. But it's not just talk. No, Luciano's heard something more. People talk, he says, his voice low, deliberate. I'm out of the game, but that don't mean I don't hear things. They think they're gonna make their move, and when they do, that man's done. His eyes, cold and calculating, pierce the air like he's already watching the game unfold. The thing about Luciano is he's always seen the board. And right now he's staring at it, knowing that the pieces are about to move in a way nobody expects. Who's pulling the strings here? Who's setting up the board? Who's ready to make their move? It's all in play. And nobody knows that better than Lucky Luciano. He knows it won't be him. His time's run out. But he's seen the signs. He's seen how the game plays out when betrayal walks in through the back door. It's a power trap and there's no way out. The days stretch on for Lucky, his health sinking fast, but that sharp mind still moves like it's running 1,000 operations at once. He's not dead yet, but he can feel it. Time is closing in. But that doesn't stop him from sending messages. The men who come to visit him in exile, they know the score. They know better than to cross him, even now. But what he's telling them, what he's been whispering, these little seeds of knowledge, these are the things that make men nervous. Luciano's words keep echoing in the rooms long after his visitors leave. His voice, smooth but full of intent, cuts through the air like a blade. They think it's just business, but that's not how we do things. He knows this game. He created this game. There's no hesitation in his tone, no second guessing. His mind is as sharp as it ever was, seeing every angle, knowing the streets like the back of his hand. And what does he see? A shifting of power. A coming storm. Jack Kennedy thinks he's untouchable. The media loves him. The people love him. But that's the thing about love. It's fickle. One moment you're the golden boy and the next you're a target. And when your back's turned, the knife slides in. When Luciano speaks, it's more than just a warning. It's a death sentence. They don't get it, he says one evening, the words slipping out like a confession. My boy's got too many enemies, and the ones he don't know about. They're the ones you need to worry about. He's not talking about ordinary men here. No, Luciano's talking about men who can arrange things. Men who can make people disappear without leaving a trace. Men who can pull the strings from behind the curtains and never get their hands dirty. You don't make the deal with the devil and then think you can walk away from it, he mutters to himself, almost as if he's talking to the walls. You can't just throw us out like trash and expect to keep your seat. The moment you think you're untouchable is the moment you start dying. But Luciano isn't done yet. No, he's planting something far more dangerous. Dallas, he says again like a ticking bomb about to go off. They think it's going down in Dallas. Big oil, Texas power, too much heat, too many people want to see him fall. His eyes burn with something more now, something deeper. You don't cross the people who put you where you are. You don't betray the ones who helped you climb to the top. And that's when he says it, the line that cuts the air and sends chills down your spine. I don't think Jack's gonna make it out of this one. This time. There ain't no turning back. As the days pass, the tension thickens in the air. You can feel the streets rumbling like the calm before a hurricane. Luciano's words, they hang in the air like smoke, lingering. You can almost taste it. You can almost hear the steps getting closer. But who's making the move? Who's going to make the first strike? You can see the pieces on the board shifting. No one knows who's going to make the final move. And right now, it doesn't matter. The trap is set. And Jack, he's walking right into it. The question is, who will move first? Time's a funny thing when you're out of the game. Lucky Luciano knows that better than anyone. He's no longer in the trenches, but the game never forgets you. His enemies, his allies, they're all still playing their pieces, but the man's got a way of seeing the game long before it unfolds. In his final days, Luciano's world's getting smaller. But those conversations, those whispers, they carry weight. Men from all walks of life still come to him. Some seeking advice, some just showing respect. But one name keeps coming up in those conversations, Kennedy. Too many promises made, he says one evening, his voice barely a rasp. And promises, they don't mean nothing when you don't keep them. By this point, Luciano's not just talking about Jack anymore. He's talking about the entire Kennedy family, the deals made, the betrayals that have been simmering beneath the surface. And what's left? A slow boil, a tension so thick you can almost see it hanging in the air. These things take time, Luciano mutters, his eyes narrowing. But they don't forget. They never forget. His fingers tap the edge of the chair, a slow, rhythmic beat like the ticking of a clock. He knows what's coming. He knows it's already in motion. There are men in Texas, in New York, in places where power doesn't speak loud. It whispers, it moves in the shadows, it waits. And those whispers, they're getting louder. Louder until they're too deafening to ignore. There's a name that keeps popping up in these conversations, Carlos Marcello, the New Orleans mob boss. He's not just upset, he's furious, betrayed, and that kind of anger. It's the kind that can make a man do things he wouldn't otherwise, but Marcello's not the only one. There's a crew of men, all with their own grudges, their own reasons to want Kennedy gone. They've been waiting for the right moment, and now that moment's closing in. It ain't personal, Luciano says in the low light, his voice quiet but dripping with weight. It's business. It always has been. And that's the truth. The mob doesn't get emotional. They get strategic. They play the long game. They take what they want when it's time, and right now the time is almost here. Luciano knows what's coming, but it ain't his fight anymore. He's out, but you can feel it. It's in the air, the way the city breathes, the way the world turns when it's about to break. There's too much at stake now, too many men involved, too much power on the line, and when the storm hits, when the hammer falls, it's going to crush everything in its path. You can't walk back from this, Luciano warns. When you make a decision like this, there's no going back. He's not just talking about the assassination anymore. He's talking about the choices that led them here. The deals, the betrayals. The trap is closing. And now it's not about whether Kennedy's gonna survive. It's about who is going to pull the trigger. The clock is ticking down. The pieces are in motion, and it's almost time for someone to step forward. But who's in control? And who's just waiting to be crushed? The game is set, but who's making the first move? By now the tension's so thick you could cut it with a knife. Luciano's still got his ear to the ground, still hearing the whispers of men who think they're too powerful to fail. But what they don't understand is that in this game, everyone is expendable. When the mob speaks, it's like a shadow moving over the city. Quiet, deadly. No one sees it coming until it's too late. And then there's Dallas. That city keeps coming up. It's the plan. It's the place. But what's the real story behind it? Who's pushing for it? Who stands to gain the most? You know that when men like Luciano talk about Dallas, they've got connections. They've got a piece of the puzzle that others don't see yet. That's where it's gonna happen, he mutters under his breath, almost like he's telling himself as much as he's telling anyone else. Too many people who want him gone, and not enough people watching his back. He's not wrong. The Kennedys think they're untouchable, but when you've got so many enemies in so many places, the walls start closing in. Oil barons, mobsters, exiled Cubans, all of them, they've got their reasons. They've got their stakes in the game. And Jack, he's walking into a trap. It's set. Everything's been arranged. The whispers have turned into a plan. Luciano leans back in his chair, staring at the ceiling as if he's already seen the end of this story. Too many people have been hurt. Too many promises broken. It all comes down to this. A man who thinks he can get away with breaking deals. A man who thinks he can dance with the devil and not pay for it. The air feels thick as though it's holding its breath. Everyone's waiting for that one final push, that one move. It's like a game of chess. Every piece has a role, but the question is who's making the first move. And when Luciano knows what comes next, the storm's coming. The question is who's going to get caught in it. The mob, the Kennedys, or is it something even bigger than all of them? But the one thing Luciano's sure of, whatever happens, it's all about to change. And once it does, there's no going back. Who's pulling the strings now? And who's about to be caught in the middle of it all? The game is moving, the pieces shifting under the surface. And all the while, Lucky Luciano's voice lingers in the air like a warning. He's seen it all, and now from his seat in exile he watches as the clock runs out for Kennedy. But he's not the one pulling the strings. He's too far gone for that. But someone else is ready to take over. Someone with just as much power, just as much ambition. The whispers around Dallas grow louder. The oilmen, the mobsters, the political players, they're all getting in position, stacking their chips. And when the moment comes, it's not going to be a single shot. No, it's going to be a movement. Multiple players, multiple motives, one target. And no one's going to see it coming until it's too late. The first move, Luciano knows, will come from someone trying to prove something. A soldier who wants to show they can handle the heat, that they can do what the big men won't. Someone who wants to take the credit but also wants the power. The moment Kennedy drives into Dealey Plaza, the plan kicks into motion. The crowd, the cars, the cheers, they're all part of the setup. And when that bullet rings out, the game changes. But it's not just about taking down a president. It's about sending a message. A message that the power, the control, it's no longer in the hands of the Kennedys. It's in the hands of those who have been waiting, watching, patiently. And the people who have been behind the scenes, the ones making calls, pulling the strings, they know exactly what's about to happen. Luciano's warnings weren't just for the Kennedys. They were for anyone who thought they could play the game without paying the price. But who's pulling those strings? Who's going to step out from the shadows and make their move? The tension is unbearable now. The mob's been working this angle for years. The Kennedys may have thought they could escape their past, their debts, but debts have a way of catching up, especially when you've borrowed from the wrong people. Luciano's time is almost up, but the legacy of the game he built, it's alive, burning hot. And someone's about to feel the flames. The game's almost over, but who's going to make that last decisive move? Because the moment it happens, nothing will ever be the same. Who's ready to make their move? The moment arrives like a whisper in the dark. Quiet, deadly. There's no fanfare, no warning, just a shift in the air, a ripple in the streets of Dallas. They've been waiting for this moment for years. The men who run this game, they don't rush. They're patient, always patient. And now all the pieces are in place. Kennedy's in the car, rolling through Dealey Plaza, waving like a man who believes the world loves him. But that's the thing about the game. Love doesn't matter, not here, not in this world. What matters is power. What matters is who controls the streets, who holds the cards, and who has the patience to wait for the right moment. The first shot rings out, sharp and fast. The crowd flinches, but they don't know what's coming. They don't know the plan, the depth of the trap that's been set. The second shot cracks through the air, and that's when the real chaos begins. The president is hit, and it's all over in a matter of seconds. But this isn't just a shooting. No, this is a message. This is a takeover. The first bullet is just the beginning. The second, that's when the world starts to change. You can feel the tension shift in the air. The game has shifted, and it's no longer just about politics. It's about control. The mob didn't just want to take out a man. They wanted to send a message to anyone who thought they were untouchable. And now, as the dust settles, the truth is clear. Who's left standing? The ones who have been playing the game from the shadows, the ones who know how to move quietly, to strike without warning. They're the ones who own the streets now. The Kennedys, they've become pawns in a game they didn't even know they were playing. They thought they were in control, thought they could get away with anything. But in this world, power doesn't come for free. And when you owe too many people, the cost of betrayal is always the same. Luciano's words echo now, louder than ever. When you make a deal with the devil, there's no coming back. The mob has sent its message. The question now is who's going to step up next. The power vacuum is real and it's waiting for someone to fill it. But who's in control now? The game isn't over, it's just begun. And in the streets of America, things are about to get even more dangerous. The smoke clears, but the game is just starting to unfold. Dallas is a city that will never be the same. Kennedy's gone, but the ripple effect has only just begun. Men are moving in silence, but their actions speak louder than any words. The mob, the politicians, the oil barons, the exiled Cubans, everyone's got skin in the game now. Everyone's got a stake in what comes next, and no one's asking for permission. Luciano's words were a prophecy, a silent warning that no one saw coming. But now, those words are ringing in the ears of the men who hold the real power. The ones who make the deals in the shadows, who don't need to make noise because they know the weight of silence is heavier than any shout. In the wake of the assassination, there's a vacuum, and the vultures are circling. Men like Carlos Marcello, Santos Traficante, names whispered in dark corners of the streets, they're already moving, already planning. The system that's been in place for years is cracking, and someone's ready to fill the cracks with their own brand of power. And there's Jack Ruby. That man, he's the one who sealed the deal, took the final step. Ruby thought he was acting on his own, thought he was doing what needed to be done. But the moment he pulled that trigger on Oswald, he sealed his own fate. Because in this game, no one acts alone, not when the stakes are this high. Ruby's move didn't just end Oswald's life, it started something far worse. He knew it. Luciano knew it. And now everyone else is starting to figure it out too. FBI, the CIA, the press, they're all scrambling to put the pieces together, trying to make sense of a puzzle no one's supposed to understand. But the mob, they're just watching. They're waiting for the dust to settle so they can pick up the pieces and move in. This was never just about a president. This was about power, control. And when you have that kind of power, you don't rush. You wait for your moment. Now, the real question is, who's next? Who's going to rise from the ashes of this assassination? Because in this game, you don't just sit back. You step up or you get crushed. And there's always someone ready to take your place. And as for Luciano, he may be gone, but his empire is alive. The legacy he left behind, the structure he built, it's still in play. And the men who respect him, who learned from him, they're still here, still pulling the strings, still controlling the streets. This wasn't just a man's death. It was the death of one chapter and the opening of another. But who will take the pen next? And who will get swallowed up by the game they thought they controlled? Because in the streets, there's only one rule that's always true. If you're not moving, you're already dead. The dust may have settled in Dealey Plaza, but it's far from over. The streets are alive with whispers. The power shifts have only just begun, and those who thought they were untouchable, they're starting to realize that in this game, there are no safe spaces, no permanent thrones. The mob, the ones who have been lurking in the shadows, are making their moves now. They've watched the chaos unfold, seen the opportunities, and they're ready to capitalize. But they don't rush. They never do. No, they wait, moving slowly, strategically, like a serpent about to strike. And all the while, the men who were once in power, the ones who ran the game, they're trying to hold on to what they've got. But the system's crumbling. The Kennedy name, once a symbol of power, now feels like a weight dragging them down. They didn't just lose the presidency, they lost control of the very thing they built. But there's one thing the mob knows that the Kennedys never learned. You never show your cards too soon. As the days pass, the whispers turn into plans. The men who have spent years in the shadows, Marcello, Trafficante, all of them, they know how to play this game. They've seen it before. When you're at the top, the only way to stay there is to keep moving, keep evolving, and that's exactly what they're doing now. While the world focuses on Oswald and Ruby, the real power players are working behind closed doors, making sure that no one remembers who held the strings when the dust settles. But here's the thing. There's always a cost, and that's something the Kennedys are about to learn the hard way. You can make deals with the devil, but at some point, you're gonna have to pay the piper. Now, the game isn't just about who controls the streets of New York or Chicago or even Texas. No, it's about who can survive this storm, who can rise from the ashes of a dead president and make sure their own empire isn't next to fall. The clock's ticking down. Pieces are still in motion and the stakes are higher than ever. There are men who are waiting to make their move, but who's going to get there first? Who's going to own the game when the smoke clears? One thing's for sure, someone is about to pay for the sins of the past. And in this world, no one gets away clean. The city pulses. It's not just Dallas anymore. It's every major street in America, every alley, every corner. The whispers have spread like a virus infecting the very foundations of the game. People thought they could control the streets, control the power. But power doesn't belong to the ones who shout the loudest. It belongs to the ones who have been waiting in silence, the ones who know how to stay out of sight and still pull all the strings. As for the Kennedys, they're slipping. The empire they built is starting to show cracks, and with every move they make, with every attempt to hold on to what's left, the mob is right behind them, moving like shadows, getting closer. The game has a way of exposing weakness, and right now they're looking at the Kennedys like the lion looks at the gazelle. It's time. It's not just about Dallas anymore. It's about what comes after. The streets have no loyalty, only opportunity. And every player, every man who spent his life in the shadows knows what comes next. Marcello's still out there. Trafficante is still out there. These men are the quiet kings of this kingdom, the ones who can strike without anyone knowing they're there. They've seen the Kennedys rise and they've watched them fall. They understand the stakes, the game, the silence, and they're ready. The question isn't about who made the first move, it's about who's next, who will step into the power vacuum, who will emerge from the chaos and claim what was once theirs. Luciano's legacy still looms large. His influence still moves in ways people can't see. Even in exile, even in his final days, his empire was never really gone. It was just waiting. And those who thought they could rise without paying the price. They're about to learn that in this game, you always pay the price. It's not just about business, it's personal. And now, as the storm rages, the question is clear. Who's going to walk away from the wreckage and who's going to be left behind, crushed under the weight of their own ambition? The clock's ticking. Every second that passes is another chance for someone else to make their move. But when the dust settles, there can only be one who holds the cards. And right now, the game's still being played. But who's pulling the strings now? And who's about to be taken down by their own? The tension's so thick it could strangle the air. The mob's watching, calculating. They've seen it before. Men rise, men fall. It's all part of the game. The Kennedys thought they could play both sides. They thought they could use the mob to get where they wanted and then turn their backs when they no longer needed them. But that kind of arrogance, that kind of betrayal, it's a death sentence in this world. Now, the pieces are all moving and everyone's eyes are on one thing, the fallout. The president's gone. The country is in shock. The power vacuum, it's palpable, it's ripe for the taking. Marcello's making his move in the shadows. Trafficante's already on the phone making deals. And every man who's had his grudge against the Kennedys, every politician, every gangster, every person who's ever felt slighted is ready to capitalize. But the real players, the ones who know how to stay hidden, they're already planning their next steps. They're not in the game for the short run. They're playing for keeps. The people who made the first move in the game, they know what comes next. But here's the twist. The ones who thought they were safe, they're already marking their spot on the chopping block. In the dark corners of the streets, men who were once untouchable are starting to realize that no one is immune from this kind of power shift. The mob doesn't care about loyalty. They don't care about friendships. All they care about is money, control, dominance. The second the dust settles, someone will step forward and claim the power. But who? The oilmen, the Cuban exiles, the silent, waiting ones who have been planning for years, sitting back, watching the chaos. No one can predict it yet, but one thing is for sure, it's coming. And as for the Kennedys, they're scrambling. Jack may be gone, but his legacy is being picked apart, piece by piece. The mob will play it slow, just like they always do. They'll let the world turn its gaze on the Kennedys while they slip in and take everything. But that's the thing about power, it always shifts. The only question is who will be standing when the smoke clears, and the next move, that's the one that decides everything. Whoever controls the streets controls the country. Who's got the guts to make it? The game is shifting, and someone's about to be left in the dust. But who? Who's next? The game's heating up, but it's not loud. Not yet. It's like a cold wind blowing through the streets, carrying whispers that turn into decisions that turn into moves. And all these moves, they've got one thing in common. They're quiet, subtle, and they all circle back to one thing: power. The Kennedys, those who remain, are trying to pick up the pieces of a shattered empire, but they're not playing with the same cards anymore. Their hands are weak. Too many deals made, too many promises broken. The mob's not just watching anymore, they're waiting to make their move. Marcello's still moving in the shadows, quiet, calculating. He knows his time is coming. He's been building quietly, making moves for years. He understands the game better than most. When the dust settles, the question won't be who will rise. It'll be who has the patience to stay on top after everyone else falls. Traficante's got his own plans, but they're not just about taking power, they're about sending a message. The streets will know without a doubt who's in control, and he's not going to let anyone forget it. He's already got men in place. When he moves, it'll be a statement that the mob can't just be pushed aside, not by anyone. Not by a president, not by anyone with ambition. The power vacuum's ripe, and every player knows that the key to taking control is about positioning yourself right now. The streets are changing, and anyone who waits too long will lose their grip. But whoever plays their cards right now, whoever makes the right alliances and manipulates the right men, they will emerge with everything. The questions keep coming. Who will step into the spotlight? Who will take what's left of the broken pieces? The mob has always been patient, but the time for waiting is almost over. There's blood in the water. The scent of opportunity's too strong to ignore. But that's the thing about power. It doesn't come easy. You take it, or it's taken from you. And right now, the only thing more dangerous than the people vying for control is the one who waits until everyone else has made their move. Who will rise? And who will be buried under the weight of their own ambition? The game is in play. And no one, not a single player, knows how it'll end. But one thing is for sure, the stakes are higher than ever. And when the smoke clears, someone will own it all. But who will be left standing? The streets of America are always changing, always shifting beneath the feet of those who think they control them. But power, real power, isn't about being in the spotlight. It's about being in the shadows, unseen, but always pulling the strings. Men like Luciano knew this. He built his empire in the shadows, his influence felt but never visible. He made deals with the devil, sure, but he knew exactly who he was making them with. And now, the game he started, it's more alive than ever. But now it's not just about the mob, it's about something bigger, something more dangerous. A cold wind blows through the corridors of power. Men who once thought they could buy their way out of trouble are realizing they can't outrun the clock. The game is too big, too many pieces, too many players, too many men with old scores to settle. And the Kennedys? They're on borrowed time. The news, the media, the public, everyone's watching. They're looking for answers. But behind closed doors, the only thing that matters is who controls the streets. And right now, it's not the Kennedys. Not anymore. It's the men who have been playing the game in the dark corners of this world. The ones who have been waiting for the right moment to strike. Carlos Marcello, once just another name in the shadows, is moving closer to the light. His grip on New Orleans on the south is ironclad. He's been in the shadows for too long, too silent. Now it's his time to make his move. He's not some small-time player. No, Marcello is a force. And like Luciano before him, he knows that timing is everything. He's been quiet for years, laying low after the heat on the Mafia reached its peak. But that's the thing with the mob, it's cyclical. It ebbs and flows, but it never truly dies. And Marcello knows that better than anyone. His men are everywhere. They move with the kind of silence that only years of practice can bring. They blend in, slipping between the cracks, making moves in places the public will never see. There's no need to make a spectacle out of it, no need to show off. The real power, it's the one that's felt but never seen. And Marcello's been laying low for the last few years, letting the world focus on the Kennedys and the circus they've created. But now it's Marcello's time. He has plans. He's already started making calls. Men in Chicago, New York, even in Havana, he's reaching out, assembling his network, readying them for the power grab that's about to unfold. He knows that in order to take control, you have to break down the barriers. The Kennedy administration had been a thorn in his side, but that's a thing of the past. Now it's about positioning, about filling the void left by a dead president and who's going to stop him. In the same breath, the Mafia's grip on New York is slipping, and it's not the Kennedys who are to blame. It's the very men who have been running it all this time. The five families, once united under Luciano's vision, are beginning to fracture. Greed, betrayal, too many egos. And in the streets, that's the one thing you can never have, too much ego. The families have been fighting over scraps for years now. There's no real unity anymore. The commission, which once served as the ultimate power broker, is fractured. And when there's no unity, there's no strength. The small-time players, the young bucks who think they can take control, are starting to move in. They're testing the waters, feeling out how far they can push the boundaries. But the older men, the ones who remember the old ways, they're not about to sit by and watch this game turn into chaos. Vito Genovese, the old lion of New York, has been waiting for his moment. He's been biding his time, watching the others squabble and fight. But the war for control of New York is heating up, and Marcello knows it. He sees the cracks in the foundation, and he's ready to exploit them. Genovese knows the streets. He understands the delicate balance that keeps everything from falling apart. But he's also a survivor. He knows the way to stay at the top isn't always by brute force. Sometimes it's about making the right alliances, and that's exactly what he's been doing. Little by little, he's been positioning himself, pulling strings from behind the curtain. His influence is felt, but it's not in the open. That's the thing about power, it doesn't always have to be flashy. It just has to be there, waiting for the moment to strike. And right now, the moment is close. But as Marcello moves closer to taking control, there's another force creeping in the shadows. A force the old men haven't been paying attention to. A new breed of gangster. These aren't the men who grew up on the streets of Sicily, who learned the old ways from the back alleys of New York. No, these men are young. They've got ambition, and they don't care about tradition. They don't care about respect. They care about one thing, power. They've been watching, waiting for their time. They've seen the cracks in the system. The old mobsters are too comfortable, too complacent. They've forgotten what it's like to fight for survival. And in this game, if you're not constantly moving, constantly adapting, you're dead. There's a new generation of players now, ruthless, cunning, and willing to do whatever it takes to get to the top. They're not waiting for permission. They're taking what they want, and they're doing it fast. But who are they really working for? Marcello's not worried about them yet, but he should be. They're like the blood in the water, circling, waiting for the right time to strike. They've got connections in places the old-timers don't even know about. And when the time comes, they'll move fast. They'll take control before anyone even realizes what's happening. But who will lead them? Who will stand at the top of this new wave of power? And then there's the government. The one thing no one ever talks about. Because in this world, power doesn't just come from the streets. It comes from the halls of power. And there's always someone pulling the strings behind the scenes. The government's been involved with the mob since the very beginning. And even though they try to distance themselves, they're always connected. There's always a hand in the pot. The FBI, They've been playing catch-up since the 1930s. They've been trying to infiltrate the mob, trying to bring it down, but the truth is, they've never had the kind of connections the mob has. They've never had the same power, and that's something the mob knows. They've got their hands in everything from labor unions to politicians to judges. And the government, they know it. They've always known it, but right now, they're vulnerable, they're exposed. With Kennedy dead, the country's leadership is in turmoil. The power struggle is out in the open now, and the government is at the mercy of the men who run the streets. But here's the question: who's going to rise from the ashes of the Kennedy assassination? Who's going to control the country when it's all said and done? The pieces are moving faster now. Everyone's jockeying for position. The old guard, the new blood, the government, they're all watching each other. And everyone knows that the storm is coming. A storm of power. A storm of betrayal. And when the dust settles, there will only be one man standing at the top. The mob knows it. The Kennedys know it. The government knows it, but who will make the final move? Who's ready to take control and claim the throne? The game is far from over. In fact, it's just begun. It's the kind of night where the air feels thick with possibility, heavy, like a storm is about to break. In the streets beneath the surface, power is shifting, like the tide pulling back, the calm before it crashes. All the key players know it. They've felt it for weeks, months even. The slow churn of the game turning, the inevitability of it. The Kennedys might have believed they were untouchable, but they've shown their cards. And when you show your cards too early, you end up with nothing left to play. Marcello now, he's the one watching it all unfold. He's not one for noise or show, he never has been. Power doesn't need to scream to be heard, it simply is. And right now, Marcello's the one who's got the patience to let the others make their moves. But he knows deep down that his move is next. The younger players, the new breed, they've been running rampant, testing the waters, trying to make a name. They're hungry. But they don't have the patience Marcello has. They think they can rush the process. They think they can outsmart the old lions. But Marcello knows how this game plays out. Eventually, the noise dies down, and the quiet ones who have waited will strike. There's no place for emotion in the world Marcello rules. It's all business. Cold, calculated business. And while the younger, brash men make their gambles, he watches them like a hawk, waiting for them to make the fatal mistake. The one thing they don't know: in this game, when you play too fast, you lose. It's all about who can wait, who can outlast, who can watch the chaos unfold and still emerge at the top. He's been doing it for decades, and now, it's time to take control. But Marcello can't do this alone. He's not foolish enough to think he's the only power left standing in this fractured world. There are other pieces, other players, some with more resources, others with more influence. He needs allies, and he knows just where to find them. The Cuban exiles, for instance. They've been nothing short of volatile since Castro's rise to power. Their anger, their resentment, it's bubbling beneath the surface, waiting to explode. And they hate Kennedy with a passion. But here's the thing, they hate the government more. They hate what the U.S. has done to them, leaving them stranded in a foreign land, abandoned by their own country, their countrymen. And while the government turns a blind eye to the real power in the streets, Marcello has been quietly reaching out to those who hold influence among the exiles. They've got their reasons to make noise, but Marcello has got the one thing they need: control. And once he has them in his corner, the city, the country, it's his. The truth is, everything runs on influence. He understands that better than most. You can't take over the streets by force alone. You do it with influence, with connections, with the right people in the right places. And Marcello has been planting those seeds for years. He's ready now. But there's one man who stands in his way. The man who's always in the way when the game turns ugly: Vito Genovese. Genovese is a different breed. He's not playing for the same stakes Marcello is. Where Marcello plays a long game, Genovese plays a short one, quick, brutal, and decisive. And the thing about Genovese is, he's not the kind of man you negotiate with. Not in the way Marcello does. He doesn't believe in alliances. He believes in domination. And for years, he's been gunning for control of New York streets. He wants power, and he wants it now. Marcello's aware of this, of course. He's not blind to Genovese's ambitions. The man's hungry, sure, but he's also reckless. That's what Marcello's counting on. He knows that the best way to take control is to wait for the storm to pass, for the other players to make their mistakes, to overextend themselves. Genovese won't see it coming. He'll make his move thinking he can overpower Marcello, but Marcello will be ready. He always is. And that's the thing about power. It doesn't come all at once. It comes bit by bit. Every move you make is a step toward it. But there's a problem Marcello has been avoiding. Robert F. Kennedy, the Attorney General, the man who's made it his mission to tear down the mob. His aggressive prosecutions, his determination to put men like Marcello in the ground. He's been a constant thorn in the side. But Marcello's not worried about that either. He's been around long enough to know how the game works. Men like Kennedy think they can outlast the mob. They think the law has the final say. But that's the mistake they always make. The law doesn't control the streets. Power does. And Marcello has the kind of power that no lawman can touch. Then there's the question of who controls the city, who controls the men. The ones who hold sway over the docks, the unions, the casinos, the ones who pull the purse strings of the working class. Marcello knows these men. He's worked with them, and now he's going to work them for him. But things aren't always so simple. There are always the wild cards, the unpredictable elements, the people who throw everything off balance. Marcello knows that. And so he keeps his allies close, too close. But when you're playing the game at this level, when you're making moves that have the potential to shake the foundations of the country, you need men who can handle themselves in the trenches. Men who will make sure your interests are served without hesitation. And for that, Marcello's got his team. He's got his soldiers, and so the game continues. The dance. The power struggle. Men like Marcello, like Genovese, they understand it. They've lived it. They've seen what happens when you play your cards too early, when you overextend yourself, when you get too greedy. They've seen it all. And they know one thing. In the world of organized crime, the only law that matters is survival. So the clock ticks down. The pieces are in motion. And as the world watches from the outside, the real action happens behind closed doors. The only question now is, who will make the first real move? Because in this game, every move counts, and not everyone will walk away alive. Marcello's final plan is almost in place, and all it takes is one more push to send the game spiraling toward its inevitable conclusion. Part 14. The game has always been about one thing: control. Who owns the streets? Who calls the shots when it's time to make the hard decisions? And the hardest part of the game, knowing when to strike, when to wait, and who to trust. In the shadows of New York, Chicago, and the back alleys of Havana, power doesn't speak in loud words. It moves in silence, in subtle shifts, in calculated gestures. And right now, all the pieces are in place. Marcello's sitting in the back of a dimly lit room in his office, eyes fixed on the map of New York laid out on his desk. Every street, every corner, every key player is marked. He's been preparing for this moment for years, watching, listening, letting others make their moves while he remained patient. Now the storm's coming, and it's coming fast. The cracks are there, the signs are clear, and he knows it's time. The game's about to shift in ways no one expects. Marcello has never been one to show his hand too early. That's what separates the players who last from the ones who burn out too fast. He's watched men rush to the top, thinking they could handle everything, only to crash down just as quickly. But Marcello, he's smarter than that. His rise was slow, deliberate. Every deal made with care, every alliance calculated. His empire isn't just about money, it's about influence. It's about knowing who to work with, when to cut ties, and when to wait until everyone else is so caught up in their own agendas that they forget about you entirely. As Marcello pulls on his cigarette, the smoke curling into the dim air, he thinks about the men who have been moving behind the scenes in the wake of Kennedy's assassination. There's one thing he's sure of: this world isn't ready for the shift that's about to come. The Kennedys may have had their power in Washington, but Marcello knows that true power is never held in one place for too long. It moves, it evolves, and when a family like the Kennedys falls, it creates a ripple. A power vacuum, that's where he comes in. He's not the only one eyeing that power. Vito Genovese has always had his eyes on control of New York, and while Marcello's been biding his time, Genovese has been making his own moves. The thing about Genovese is that he's hungry. He's reckless in a way that Marcello never has been. His ambition is big, but it's also short-sighted. He's moving too fast, pushing too hard, and Marcello knows that's going to be his downfall. When you rush, you make mistakes. And mistakes, well, they're something Marcello has learned to exploit. He's heard the rumblings. Genovese's men have been making noise, testing boundaries, thinking they're untouchable. Marcello knows exactly where this is headed. The old lions of New York, the ones who have been playing for years, they're either going to fall in line or fall apart. The weak will be picked off and the strong will emerge. But the question isn't whether Marcello can survive this storm. He already has. The real question is, who's going to be standing when the dust settles? The door creaks open and Marcello's associate enters, a man named Frank. He's young, sharp, with a mind for business. Frank's the kind of guy who knows how to get things done quietly without attracting attention. He slides a piece of paper onto Marcello's desk, and without saying a word, Marcello takes a quick glance at it. It's a list of names. Powerful names. Politicians, businessmen, men who hold the keys to the city, the state, the country. Men who have been waiting for someone to make the next move. But Marcello isn't making his move yet. He knows what's coming. It's all about timing. And he's learned through decades of practice that timing is everything. You don't force a move when the board isn't set. You wait. You bide your time and then you strike when the moment is right. The game is always about waiting. The phone rings and Frank picks it up without a word. Marcello doesn't need to ask who it is. He knows. Another ally, another player in the game. The line is quiet for a moment, then Frank hangs up and looks at Marcello. "It's time," Frank says simply. Marcello nods. He's been preparing for this. Every move, every alliance, every piece of the puzzle has been set into motion. It's all coming together now. Marcello stands and with a calculated calm he steps toward the door. "Let's get to work," he says, his voice cool and steady. But the thing about Marcello is that while everyone else is watching, waiting for the final move, he's already 10 steps ahead. He's been maneuvering behind the scenes, quietly waiting for the right moment to make his move. He's been making deals, building relationships with the right people, setting up the pieces. And now it's time to strike. Marcello knows the game. He knows that every empire is built on alliances. The ones who survive are the ones who can work with others and then destroy them when the time is right. Marcello's empire has always been one of subtlety. While Genovese has been loud, brash, making moves without thinking about the consequences, Marcello has been making quiet, calculated alliances. He's been planting seeds in the right places, working the angles, building his power base. And now, it's all about to pay off. As Marcello leaves the room, a slow smile creeps across his face. It's not one of arrogance. It's the smile of a man who knows he's won before the game even begins. The first domino has fallen, and there's no stopping it now. The endgame is always the hardest part of the mob game. The chaos that follows, the betrayal, the power grab. Marcello knows that the real fight isn't about who makes the first move. It's about who survives the fallout. When the smoke clears, there will be only one name left standing. And it will be Marcello's. The game's over for the Kennedys. The game's over for Genovese. The game's over for everyone who thought they could control the streets. Marcello has been patient. He's been watching, waiting for his moment. And now the time has come. Who will survive? Who will pay the price? The storm's already here. And in this world, only one man will come out on top. And when the dust settles, it'll be Marcello who controls it all. The game's never over. It's just beginning. The world spins on its axis, but down in the gritty underbelly of New York, the streets are alive with tension. The quiet buzz of rumors fills the air, but the real game is happening in the shadows, in back rooms where deals are made and destinies are decided. Every player knows it's coming, the storm. And while the rest of the city deals with the fallout of Kennedy's death, the real fight for power is just beginning. Marcello's calm, calculated patience has paid off. He's moved his pieces, and now the moment is here. The alliances are in place, the betrayals have been set into motion, and the power vacuum left by the Kennedys' fall has left a gaping hole. No one's sure who will step up, but Marcello has already positioned himself as the one to take control. He knows the streets, knows the power brokers, knows who to trust and, more importantly, who not to trust. Vito Genovese, the hothead, the one always looking for a fast climb, has made his move. But Marcello's not worried. The man's reckless, too quick to act, too eager to take what's not yet his. Genovese thinks he can win the game with force, but Marcello knows the truth. In this world, the loudest man isn't always the strongest. It's the quiet one, the one who knows how to maneuver the pieces, who wins in the end. The problem for Genovese is that his ambition has clouded his judgment. His desire to control New York, to run the streets with an iron fist, has made him enemies in places he doesn't see. Marcello's already using that to his advantage. He knows exactly where the weak points are. He's made sure to spread the right rumors, stir up the right trouble. And soon, Genovese will find himself outmaneuvered, blindsided by a move he didn't see coming. The air feels electric as Marcello walks through the back corridors of his empire. His men are in place, his network of allies ready to make their move. No more waiting, no more hesitation. The time to act is now. He's seen it all before: the rise, the fall, the betrayals, the backstabbing. This world doesn't care about loyalty. It only cares about who holds the power when the dust settles. He steps into a dimly lit room where his closest allies are gathered. Frank, the young man who's risen through the ranks, stands at attention. Marcello nods slightly. There's no need for words. The plans have been set. The die has been cast. Marcello's eyes scan the room. He knows this is the moment of truth. If this move fails, it's all over. But if it works, he'll own New York. He'll own the streets, the city, the power. And with that power, he'll reshape everything. The country, the government, the world as it is. But first, he needs to deal with one last obstacle: Jack Ruby, the man who killed Oswald, the man who may have sealed his own fate by silencing the one man who could have given up the truth. Ruby's connections to the mob are well known, but Marcello knows there's something more to it, something darker. Ruby is more than just a man on a mission to avenge Kennedy. He's a loose cannon, and loose cannons have a way of causing problems, even when they're useful. Marcello hasn't trusted Ruby since the moment he made that fateful move, silencing Oswald before he could ever stand trial. Marcello isn't a fan of getting too much blood on his hands, especially not unnecessary blood. Ruby's move was messy, but Marcello's a man of order. And Ruby, well, he's a wild card who could either turn into an asset or a liability. Marcello's been waiting for the right moment to deal with him. He's already made sure that the right people are in the right places. People who know how to deal with loose ends. People who know how to make them disappear without a trace. And Ruby, well, he's a loose end Marcello is more than ready to tie up. But for now, Ruby's just a problem Marcello has to manage. A threat he needs to neutralize before he can fully take control. The plan is simple. Marcello will tighten his grip on the city through his allies, take control of key industries, leverage the political landscape in his favor, and then systematically take down those who stand in his way. He's already made deals with the right people in the unions, in the police force, and in the business world. Everyone is ready to fall into line. Everyone except the fools who still think they can challenge him. But the game isn't over. It never is. Marcello knows there's always someone waiting in the wings, always someone looking to make their own move. That's the nature of the beast. Power is never safe. It's always in flux. And so Marcello makes his move, a quiet one as always. He pulls the strings from behind the curtain, unseen, unnoticed. He's already taken down Genovese's weak points, spread rumors that will sow chaos in Genovese's own ranks. Now it's time to deal the final blow, the last piece of the puzzle. Genovese's men are in disarray, rumors running wild. The young players, those who thought they could rise above the chaos, are falling apart under the pressure. Marcello doesn't need to lift a finger. The streets are already doing his work for him. The betrayals, the backstabbing, they're all in motion. Genovese won't last much longer, and when he falls, Marcello will be the one to step forward. The first domino falls, and Marcello's empire begins to take shape. He's not interested in a throne made of gold. He's not interested in being flashy, being loud. No, Marcello's power will be built on stability, quiet, control, influence, the kind of power that doesn't need to be shouted from the rooftops because it's already embedded in every corner of society. And as Genovese's empire crumbles, Marcello makes his move in the city, consolidating his power. His men are everywhere. Every alley, every street corner, every business transaction, it's all his. The city belongs to Marcello now, and the government. Well, Marcello has the right people in place to make sure the right laws are passed, the right deals are made. As the sun sets over New York, Marcello stands at the top of his world. He's the king now, the one everyone looks to for direction, for answers. The last of the old guard has fallen. The streets are his and no one dares challenge him. He's built something that can't be taken down easily. His empire is strong, built on a foundation of control, influence, and a network that stretches from New York to New Orleans to Havana. Marcello's smile is cold, calculating. He knows that power doesn't stay in one place for long. It moves, it shifts, it grows. But for now, for this moment, Marcello has everything. The streets, the business, the government, it all belongs to him. But as Marcello looks out over the city, he knows better than to think this is the end. The game is always shifting. And in this world, power isn't held by one man forever. It's a cycle. But for now, he's at the top. And no one can take that away from him. For now, he is the game. And when you own the game, there's no need for shouting. You just wait for the right moment to strike. It's a strange thing, being at the top. You think you have it all figured out, that the game is yours to control. But Marcello knows better. He's been around long enough to understand that this empire, this world, it's built on sand, not stone. Every move he makes now is one step closer to solidifying his power, but every move he makes is also a gamble. In this game, nothing is ever as secure as it seems. The moment of victory is always the most dangerous. The tension in the air is thick, like the calm before a storm. For Marcello, it's a constant hum in the background, a reminder that power doesn't last forever. He knows the game is cyclical. Today he controls New York, but tomorrow's never guaranteed. He understands that better than anyone. His men, his network, they're all in place. But power doesn't stay still. It shifts. It moves. And as Marcello looks over his empire, he knows that the moment someone thinks they've made it, that's the moment they're most vulnerable. Every king has his challengers. Marcello's no different. He has his allies, sure, but even they can be bought, can be swayed, can be turned. There's one thing Marcello's always kept in mind: time. The clock never stops ticking. In the world of organized crime, time is the most precious commodity, and Marcello's never been one to waste it. Every second counts. The relationships he's built, the favors he's called in, the alliances he's secured, they're all part of the strategy. But right now, there's a sense of urgency. He feels it. He knows it's coming. The younger players, the new breed of gangsters who have been watching from the sidelines, they're starting to make their move. They're growing impatient. They think they can rise quickly, challenge the old guard. Marcello's already seen it happen before. Men who think they can do it better. Men who don't understand that in this world, speed and recklessness aren't the same as power. And in the mob, power doesn't just come from being loud. It comes from being invisible, from playing the long game, from waiting. But now the new players are pushing their way through the cracks. They're rising fast and the cracks are widening. The pressure is mounting. Marcello has been silent, but silence doesn't mean weakness. Silence means control. The moment these young players step up and make a move, they'll find themselves stepping right into the trap Marcello's set. He can't afford to let this slip. Not now, not when he's so close to having everything. Across the city, Genovese is reeling. Marcello's been moving quietly, but Genovese's men are already getting restless. The fallout from their failed bid for dominance is starting to surface, and Marcello knows it's just a matter of time before they make a desperate play. But Marcello isn't worried about Genovese. Not anymore. Genovese's fire is burning out. He made his move too soon. Marcello has always known that slow and steady wins the race. Genovese, on the other hand, thinks fast action is the key to success. And now, he's vulnerable. Genovese isn't the only one Marcello's watching, though. The other families, the ones who were once under his thumb, are beginning to squirm. They're making their own plays, testing the waters, trying to see how much they can get away with. Marcello's not a fool. He sees what's happening, and he's already putting things in motion to remind everyone who's still in control. The mob's like a game of chess. And right now, Marcello is positioning himself for the checkmate. But in this world, there's always the unexpected. There's always the wild card. And Marcello's been keeping his eyes on a few players who haven't made their move yet but are far from out of the game. They're waiting for the right moment. And Marcello, he's been waiting too. He's just a few steps ahead. Then there's the government. It's been a while since the feds have been a real threat to Marcello's operations. But that's changing now. With the death of Kennedy, the government has been scrambling to put together a new plan to regain control over the mob. Robert Kennedy, the man who once went after the Mafia with everything he had, is no longer in the picture. But there's always someone new, someone else ready to take up the mantle and try to bring down the mob. Marcello knows the game with the government. He's played it before. He's made his deals with the right people, ensured his operations run smoothly without drawing too much heat. But even the best-laid plans can unravel. And right now, there are whispers of a new government initiative aimed at taking down the Mafia for good. This one's different, it's more coordinated, the stakes are higher. And Marcello knows that if he doesn't play this right, it could all come crashing down. There's no room for mistakes. Marcello's dealt with law enforcement before, but this is different. This new initiative is personal, and he knows it's only a matter of time before the noose tightens around him. But Marcello's been here before. He knows how to play both sides. He's built a network of people who can influence the right politicians, who can keep him informed on what the government's planning. He's got allies in Washington, allies in places where others can't reach. But Marcello also knows that even the best networks can't protect you forever. That's why, even as he sits on top, controlling the streets, Marcello's always thinking ahead. He's already planning his next move, already setting the stage for when the government eventually turns its attention back to him. Marcello's empire is close to being complete. The streets of New York are under his thumb, his influence stretched across every corner. His men are in the unions, the police force, the businesses that drive the city's economy. He controls the docks, the casinos, the clubs, the places where money flows like water. He's untouchable, but he's not content. Because Marcello knows one thing, there's always someone out there looking to take your place. And the moment you let your guard down, the moment you think it's all in the bag, that's when the game turns. And for a man like Marcello, that's the last thing he can afford. He leans back in his chair, the smoke of his cigarette curling lazily into the air, and for a moment he lets himself feel the weight of it all, the years, the deals, the power he's built. But then, like a switch, the feeling passes, and he's back to business. Because in this game, there's no time to relax. There's only one thing that matters now, surviving the next move. And Marcello, he's ready, always. The storm is coming, and it's not about to stop. In this game, there can only be one winner, and Marcello's making sure that winner is him. As the days grow longer and the pressure mounts, Marcello stands at the crossroads of a world that's rapidly changing around him. The empire he's built, brick by brick, is no longer just a collection of neighborhoods or syndicates. It's a machine, a well-oiled apparatus of power. Yet with every step he takes forward, the shadows behind him grow longer, more ominous. The rules of the game haven't changed, but the players sure have. From his office, Marcello surveys the streets of New York. Through the windows, he sees the pulse of the city, traffic, people moving about their daily lives, unaware of the invisible wars being waged on the other side of the curtain. To them, life is business as usual, but Marcello knows better. This city, like any other, is built on a foundation of secrets, of things that the average person will never see, never understand. And the moment they do, the moment the truth is revealed, That's when the game is over. Marcello leans back in his chair, letting the faint sound of traffic below seep through his thoughts. His fingers drum on the edge of the desk, a subtle rhythm like the ticking of a clock. The government is starting to circle again, like a predator sensing weakness in its prey. He can feel it. They're getting closer. The buzz of activity among his men has grown more frantic, more urgent. They've been gathering information, making moves, trying to hold their ground. Marcello knows that soon, very soon, the government's push to dismantle organized crime will be real. And when it comes, it'll come for him first. But Marcello doesn't flinch. He's been here before. He's been in the crosshairs of law enforcement since the first day he stepped into the game. The only difference now is that the stakes have gotten higher. The world is watching, and Marcello knows that no matter how much power he holds, there's always someone ready to take it from him. The question is, who will rise to challenge him now? In the midst of it all, there's one name that keeps surfacing. Genovese, Marcello's rival, the man who, despite his flaws, has been a consistent player in the game. Genovese's ambition is raw, brutal, and it has been his driving force for years. Where Marcello has been patient, waiting for the right moment, Genovese has charged ahead with reckless abandon. And that's what makes him dangerous. Marcello's learned the hard way that reckless ambition can tear everything down. And Genovese's ambition is just that, reckless. But what makes Genovese even more dangerous now is that he's beginning to make allies of his own. The younger players, the up-and-comers, are looking to him for guidance. They see him as the future, as someone who will bring them power and glory. But they don't understand the true nature of power. They don't understand what it takes to hold it. And Marcello knows that. Genovese, for all his bluster, is still a man whose ego will get the best of him. His impatience will be his downfall. It's only a matter of time before his ambition leads him to make a mistake. And when that happens, Marcello will be there, waiting to pick up the pieces. The younger players are also starting to make their moves. The world Marcello has known, the world of carefully planned decisions and slow, deliberate growth, is starting to fray at the edges. New blood, eager to make their mark, is flooding the streets. They don't have the patience, the knowledge, or the wisdom of men like Marcello. They think they can simply rise to the top by moving fast, by taking risks, by acting before thinking. But Marcello knows that the moment you act without considering the consequences is the moment you begin to lose control. Marcello's empire has survived decades of war, betrayal, and power struggles. But now, the very thing that kept it intact, its calm, its patience, is being tested. He feels the tension in the air, the way the streets have shifted. There are men now who think they can change the rules of the game. They think they can rewrite the map. But Marcello knows that the map doesn't change. The rules never change, not for men who truly understand the game. The question that haunts Marcello now is this: how far can these young men go before they hit a wall? How long can they keep pushing before the house of cards they've built collapses? And when it does, who will be left standing? Marcello's not the type to make his plans known. He's not loud. He's not flashy. He doesn't need to be. That's the thing about power. It doesn't have to be flaunted. It doesn't need to be on display. Power is knowing that when the time comes, you'll be the one to make the right move. You'll be the one to strike when everyone else is still figuring out their next step. As Marcello sits back in his chair, he allows himself a moment to think about how it all started: his rise, his struggles, the wars he fought, the men he made alliances with, and the ones he destroyed. He's built this empire from the ground up, and he's done it all by playing the game smarter than anyone else. But now the game's changing. The government is coming for him. The younger players are coming for him. Even the old guard is starting to look at him with a new sense of hunger. They all want what he has. But Marcello knows something they don't. He knows that power isn't just about who has the most men or the most money. It's about who can outlast the storm. It's about who can wait until the world burns down and then walk through the ashes untouched. Marcello isn't blind to the fact that the world is changing. He knows the young men rising through the ranks are hungry and they're willing to do whatever it takes to take his place. But he's been here before. He's seen men like them rise quickly only to fall even faster. They don't understand the game. They don't understand the rules. They think they can cut corners, take shortcuts, and still come out on top. But Marcello knows better. The real power comes from the ability to control the long game. It comes from knowing when to strike and when to let the others destroy themselves. And right now, that's exactly what's happening. The new players, the ones who have been so eager to push forward, are starting to realize that the game isn't as simple as they thought. The alliances they've made are starting to fray. The risks they've taken are beginning to catch up with them. And when they fall, when the dust settles, Marcello will be there, ready to step forward and take what's his. But for now, he waits. He waits, knowing that the next few moves will decide everything. The storm is coming, and when it hits, Marcello will be the one to weather it, but who will be left standing? The game isn't over. It's never over. In Marcello's world, there's always a new power struggle, a new challenge, a new set of players coming into the fold. The only question is who survives the storm, who emerges from the wreckage with the strength to rebuild. Marcello's not worried about that. He's not worried about who will rise next or who will try to take his place. He knows one thing: in this game there can only be one. And Marcello's been playing it longer than anyone else. He's got the patience, he's got the power, and most importantly, he's got the knowledge to outlast them all. The final stretch. Marcello feels it in his bones. The game that's been running for decades, power struggles, alliances, betrayals, and countless moves behind the scenes, now all comes to this. It's been a long road, and Marcello's walked it with careful precision, the kind of slow and steady strategy that's always won him the game. But now, it's time to make the final move. He stands at the top of his empire, looking out over the city from the penthouse suite, the skyline a dark, shimmering expanse beneath him. The flickering lights of New York look like the city is alive, breathing. But Marcello knows better. It's a city of illusion, of masks, of lies. And he's one of the few who sees it all for what it really is. The new players are all around him. They've been making their moves, thinking they can rewrite the rules of the game. But Marcello knows the truth. The rules never change. They never will. And when these men, these young, reckless upstarts, finally realize it, it'll be too late for them. They'll have burned too many bridges, made too many mistakes. And Marcello, he's been waiting. He's been watching, keeping his cool, letting them make their plays while he kept his distance. It's not about rushing. It's about patience. The power in this world doesn't come from being the first to act. It comes from being the last man standing. As the final pieces of his empire fall into place, Marcello feels the tension in the air. The walls are closing in around the old guard, the men who once held the city in their grip. Genovese, his ambition leading him to overreach, has made his final mistake. The young blood, those eager to make a name for themselves, have pushed too hard, too fast, alienating the wrong people and setting off a chain reaction of betrayals. Marcello doesn't need to lift a finger. He's let the chaos unfold, and now all he needs to do is wait. Like the hunter watching from the trees, Marcello knows the moment to strike will come. And when it does, no one will see it coming. His men are in position, ready to move at a moment's notice. But for now, Marcello remains calm, detached, surveying the game from above. The government, they're still circling. The feds are on his tail, but Marcello isn't worried. He survived more than their best attempts, and he knows how to play the game with them. He's got his people in the right places, politicians, judges, men who know how to protect the right interests. The government may think they're getting close, but Marcello knows the truth. They're always a few steps behind. They've never truly understood how deep the web goes, how much power the streets really hold. It's been this way for years, and every time the feds think they've got him cornered, they're proven wrong. Every time they think they've uncovered the mob's secrets, they miss the bigger picture. Marcello's empire isn't built on criminal activity alone. It's built on relationships, on influence, on staying one step ahead of those who think they're in control. The pieces are moving quickly now. Genovese's empire is crumbling, his men turning on him, the whispers growing louder in the streets. The young players are losing their grip, their alliances falling apart one by one. The city that once seemed so full of possibility now feels like a pressure cooker, the heat rising, the pressure building. Marcello has watched it all, and now it's his turn to make the move. He walks into the room where his most trusted men are gathered, a calm presence in the storm. They look to him for direction, for leadership. The final moves have been set in motion, and Marcello knows the time is now. The plan is simple but deadly. Genovese, the last real threat to Marcello's control, is in a vulnerable position. His forces are scattered. His men are either turning on him or in disarray. All it takes now is a single push, a well-placed move, and Genovese's entire empire will crumble. Marcello's men are in place, his influence spread across the city. The government may be close, but it doesn't matter. Once the final blow is struck, no one will be able to challenge him. Marcello steps into the shadows, watching as the final pieces fall into place. The streets of New York are alive with the hum of power shifting. It's a strange thing watching the world bend to your will. But Marcello's never been one to gloat. He doesn't need the spotlight. He doesn't need the praise. He needs control. And with Genovese's downfall, that control is finally his. When the dust settles, Marcello stands alone at the top. He's played the game longer than anyone, and now he's the king. The streets, the businesses, the unions, the police force, they all belong to him. His influence stretches from coast to coast, and even the government knows better than to cross him. Marcello's empire isn't just a collection of criminal operations. It's a network, a web of power, control, and influence that can't be torn down. He survived the betrayals, the wars, the countless attempts to dethrone him. And now, as the world spins, he's the one who's still standing. The game is over. The power struggle has been won. And in the end, it was Marcello who controlled it all. Marcello takes a deep breath, standing in the quiet room. The city that once seemed so chaotic now feels calm, almost serene. The empire is his. No one can take it from him now. His men, his allies, they've all been set into place. The world outside may change, but Marcello's empire is unshakable. He's the king of this game, and there's no one left to challenge him. In the streets, the whispers will continue. The game will keep evolving, but Marcello knows the truth. He's the one who's played it best. He's the one who's outlasted every challenger, every obstacle, every setback. And when the dust finally settles, it will be Marcello's name that stands above them all. Because in this world there can only be one king, and that king is Marcello. The game's over, for now.